Often get asked what to do if you struggle remembering your dreams. And it may sound simple, but the best way to reprogram your mind into retaining more information and more details is through dream journaling. It's the simplest way I find. And the thing is that we all have various amounts of dreams at night, depending how long you're sleeping for. But when we wake up, if you do remember your dreams, or if at least it's a little bit hazy and you remember bits and pieces, you're usually going to remember the dream that happened closest to when you were waking up. And when you dream journal or do any of the other practices, you're going to remember more of your other dreams, like 5 or 6, depending on the person, like I said. So it's very important to keep a dream journal. And today I'm going to share the effective way to keep one, all the details that you can add to really harness this tool and start retaining more of that information. So we have so much information to retain throughout the day. We just live busy lives in this modern society. So the brain takes note of that, and it kind of selects off what it thinks it's important based on your habits and what you've trained it to think it's important. So if you are waking up and your habit is to just have this alarm that's screaming at you and you turn it off, rush out of bed, or snooze, scroll social media, rush out, or whatever it is, and you don't have that transitional period to even acknowledge your dreams, then your brain is going to get used to that. And it's just going to be like, well, that is useless information. There's no point in retaining it when this person already has so much that they need to do throughout their day. So it then uses that to do other things. So that's one of the reasons why it's very important to get into the habit of writing down what you remember first thing in the morning instead of rushing out of bed. And I've mentioned this before, but even if you don't remember, just journaling, I didn't remember anything today, but I felt like this or that, just journaling a little bit about how you felt when you woke up can start the process as well. And that gets you into the habit too of gracefully transitioning from your dream world, those dream experiences, to your waking life. And then you'll start noticing that the more you do this, like with any practice, you need consistency and patience. But the more that you do this, I'd say usually people that I've helped with this will take about a week or two of consistent journaling to start noticing details surfacing from their dreams. And then they get super excited about it. And then we can do the dream interpretation and dream work. So I share more about different techniques that don't involve journaling, as well as create our own dream dictionaries and cosmic dream alchemy. But for today's video, I'm going to focus on the effective ways to keep a dream journal for those of you who would like to explore that option. So the first thing would be to always date your entries. This is important because if you keep a separate personal journal just about your day-to-day experiences and process emotions and all of that, you'll be able to see the correlation between what happened in your day and your dream. And so always dating them is important. And on that note as well, I also like I personally have my dream journal also be a part of my personal journal. I've tried it both ways, where I had one separate and then it just it seemed like too many journals, but you can do whatever works best for you. Or I used to also color coordinate. I don't do that anymore, but I just kind of title it at the beginning, like dream for such day, or just the date if it's a personal experience. But if you don't want to do all of that, what you can do is something simply called like the day residue. So at the beginning, you can just write, or at the end of your day, you could just write a couple of notes of what happened in your day, certain emotions that arose or anything significant. And then after that, write the dream, the next morning, so you can start seeing that connection. So that would be the second one. Write as much as you remember, and any detail, any color, sensation, time of day, all the details that you can. And also go back and give it a title. So after you write everything that you remember, if this was a story or a a series in your life, right? What would you title that based on the dream? As well as how you woke up. So writing in how you felt in the dream as well as when you woke up is what I mean. So for example, if you have a nightmare and if you're telling, talking to me about it or to a friend or a loved one, what your dream was, and it just sounds like it should be scary, right? We have the tendency to be like, as we're talking about it and recalling it, it's like, yeah, it was actually pretty scary. I was running away from this, or, whatever was happening. And we put in the emotion from what we're recalling, if that makes sense. But in a more effective dream journal, you want to write down how you felt in the dream, because there's a whole nother interpretation even if you're having this so-called nightmare, because remember, all nightmares are dreams, but just with more of that fear factor in there. In the dream, you might have felt empowered, or you might have felt brave enough to take on whatever it was, or just like, you were running towards, whatever it is, but writing down the emotion from the actual dream. And then you can write a note of like, but I woke up feeling, agitated or whatever. So that would be a key difference. And also leave room for reflections at the end of the day. So you're doing this in the morning, and even if you are rushed, maybe just jotting down a couple of key notes and then returning to it. But then going back at night, maybe part of your nighttime routine could be to reread the entry and then add reflections if you don't have time to do it in that moment. It's also a good practice to do it anyway, because I do suggest revisiting your dreams, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But leaving room for reflections and what you thought the dream was trying to tell you. Always keeping away, like a side note, keeping away from the temptation to look up your dream or go to a dream dictionary, because that's only going to steer you away from your actual interpretation. I always like to suggest, but as an option, writing down the moon phase, like for example, if it was a full moon or a new moon or anything significant like Mercury retrograde. I go in more detail in Cosmic Dream Alchemy, but also in my own practice, just because I'm also an astrologer and I like adding all of those details every day. But you can just start with what the moon phase was in. Or optional too, if you can, for women, you can write down the day in your cycle, because that may affect your dreams as well. And you'll start noticing patterns if you do this for at least 3 months consistently. If you're going off of the moon phase or your personal woman cycle, then you'll see those patterns show up. I also recommend to revisit your journals often. I like to review them at least, or at minimum, when I finish one journal, when it's complete to the max. Before getting a brand new journal, it's kind of like my closing ceremony or something. I like revisiting and flipping through it before starting a new one. Or whenever there is something happening, I often go back to them. And I encourage this because this is something that will allow you to find patterns or even dreams that ended up happening, like prophetic dreams. That happened in waking life after you dreamt it, and you'll be able to see the message behind it a lot clearer when you go back. If it happened maybe like months ago and you forgot that you had the dream, but you're like, wait a minute, I dreamt of this, and then it happened a few months later. You can also see how certain scenarios in your dream played out in your real life. So there's a lot of value in revisiting all of that. So those are my tips for keeping an effective dream journal. That's also going to help you remember more details in your dreams. And to help you out, I do have a free workbook that you can use tonight, download it, print it out, and use it for your dream journaling practice. And to help you remember more dreams. It's going to have, it has a lot of prompts and journals so that you don't have to do all the thinking of the details. I kind of broke it down for you to consider things to write and notice from your dreams, as well as other suggestions for those who don't have time to journal and other tips. So I'll leave that in the comments below, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Are you going to start keeping a dream journal? All right, I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.